Your company Taiwan and the US have signed a tariff deal that will see the island and its chip companies invest around $740 billion in the United States. In return, Taipei will get tariffs on Taiwanese goods to cut to 15%. Let's go live now to Asia correspondent Stash Butler in Taipei. Stash, hello to you once again. So tell us how important this deal is for Taiwan.
Well, Janie, it's hugely significant and ends months of uncertainty over exactly what tariff rate Taiwan would be charged. The government had insisted for months that the 20% that we'd seen, which was already down from 32%, was a temporary tariff rate that was mocked by some. But now we're seeing that that has finally been reduced. Let me show you the numbers involved here. What we know is that Taiwan and its companies, or rather Taiwanese companies themselves, will invest around $370 billion in the United States. We don't have a precise time frame for that, while Taiwan's government will invest or guarantee at least an additional $370 billion. In return, tariffs for most goods will be reduced to 15%. What's important about that number is that it's the same as the EU, but also South Korea and Japan. So Taiwan is no longer at a competitive disadvantage. Taiwan's premier, speaking earlier at the cabinet building, said that this was a sign of the strength of Taiwan and US ties.
Last July, we first faced a change in tariffs from 32% to 20%. This was a temporary tariff rate. Now, we further obtained the most favorable tariff treatment among all countries with trade surpluses with the US, highlighting that the US views Taiwan as an important strategic partner.
Now, Janie, key to this deal is Taiwan's most valuable export, and that's semiconductor chips, the microscopic technology that you see in everything from fighter jets to washing machines. Taiwan makes 90% of the world's most advanced chips, and it's the prize jewel of its economy. The company TSMC is now the world's sixth most valuable company, worth, I think it's $2.6 trillion at the moment. Now, of course, that's got the attention of US President Donald Trump, who wants Taiwan and TSMC to be making more of this critical technology on US shores. And that's seemingly going to be an important part of this. Of course, from Taiwan's perspective, keeping the president on board is important because the US is Taiwan's biggest provider of weapons as Taipei faces the threat of a military takeover by Beijing, which claims Taiwan as part of its territory, something that Taipei rejects. That's definitely been part of the overall context that's acknowledged by US officials.
They need to keep our president happy, right? Because our president is the key to protecting their country.
Stash, the US Supreme Court is really currently deciding whether the president's tariff regime is legal. How will that affect this deal?
Well, I mean, there were some actually voices in Taiwan suggesting that Taiwan should hold off on announcing any deal with the United States because of the possibility that the US Supreme Court would strike down the tariff regime entirely. Now, that ruling is due any day now. We thought it might come on Wednesday. At the core is whether or not tariffs count as taxes, because under US law, only Congress has the power to set taxes. Judges at the US Supreme Court have suggested in their arguments and their questions to lawyers that they believe that tariffs should be considered as taxes. Now, Donald Trump has said that if his whole tariff regime is struck down, it would be disastrous for the US, a mess, he described it, in his words, saying that the US would be screwed because economies and countries and companies would look for refunds from the United States. Now, that's obviously unclear at the moment. We don't have a final ruling from the US Supreme Court, but for now, companies in Taiwan can at least rest assured knowing that they're not at a competitive disadvantage to their rivals in, say, Japan and South Korea, Janie.
Right. Thank you very much, Stash Butler.